Have you ever wondered what happens after death? What if I told you that a 16-year-old girl drowned in a flash flood and came back with direct messages from Jesus about 3 frighteningly real events that will happen before 2030? Get ready for one of the most shocking and prophetic accounts ever told on this channel. Watch until the end and find out what she saw on the other side and how these revelations can impact your life today. If you believe that the world is changing too quickly, this video will open your eyes in a supernatural way. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next NDE accounts, and comment below which city you are watching this video from. Let's spread this message to every corner of the world. My name is Savannah Blake. I had 16 years old when I died. Yes, I really died. It wasn't a fainting spell nor a strange dream. It was real. And what I saw will happen before 2030. It was a common late afternoon in Austin, Texas. The sky was clear when I got in the car with my dad on the way home from school, but within minutes dark clouds covered the sky as if it were night. A brutal storm came out of nowhere. Thunder shook the air, wind tore branches, and water began to rise, absurdly fast. "Dad, the water is coming in," I shouted. He tried to stay calm, but the engine stalled. The current swept the car with us inside away. I remember the deafening noise, my father's screams as he tried to break the window. But the water rose, cold and suffocating. I pounded on the glass with my fists until my strength gave out. The last thing I felt was water invading my lungs. Then, silence. Death is quiet, painless. I opened my eyes to a different place. There was no ceiling, no floor. It was like floating in a space filled with soft light. Not sunlight, it was living light with color and warmth and peace. And there it was, I've never been religious. I've never opened a Bible. But when I saw him, I knew it was Jesus. Not like in the paintings. He shone. His eyes had the weight of everything that ever was, and at the same time the tenderness of a brother who has known me since before I was born. And he spoke my name, Savannah. That's all. And I burst into tears. Because only those who have felt absolute love know how much our hearts yearn for this. "You're not dead yet," he said, "but it's time for you to see." "See what?" I asked, already shaking. "3 things that will happen before 2030, and you need to tell the world." At that moment, the environment around us changed. I was no longer floating. We were above something that looked like sky but was as solid as earth. A haze of light formed a sort of screen before us. "Do not fear what you will see," Jesus said. "Fear what will happen if no one is prepared." And then the first vision began. The image before me was more real than any movie. It was like being present and invisible at the same time. I saw everything and felt all. Jesus just reached out his hand and said, "Man, watch." The mist cleared and a familiar shore appeared, Miami. But it wasn't how I remembered it from the photos. The sky was metallic gray, and the sea was swallowed the city. Water flooded streets, covered cars, and swept away buses. People ran in panic, but there was nowhere to run. I saw a mother trying to keep her baby above water, men on rooftops screaming for help, elderly people trapped in submerged homes, and, the most horrible thing, cries, sirens, screams, the agony of souls who knew they would not escape. I couldn't stop crying. "Will this happen before 2030? I asked weakly. Jesus nodded slowly. "Not just here. New York, Manila, Rio de Janeiro, Lagos, Amsterdam. The earth is responding to the abuses it has suffered. The oceans will wait. No longer." I saw Tokyo under a wall of water that appeared out of nowhere. Nova York with the subway transformed into a tunnel of death. London fighting violent storms that destroyed dikes and bridges. "But why?" I asked. "Why now?" Time has accelerated. What was supposed to be slow will be sudden. It is not punishment, it is consequence. Humanity ignored the warnings. Now comes the adjustment. As I was absorbing the pain of millions, Jesus touched my shoulder and said something I will never forget. Even in chaos, there will be compassion. Even in loss, there will be love. Immediately, the scene changed focus. I saw people opening their homes to strangers, children being saved by strangers, churches becoming shelters, planes being diverted to transport humanitarian aid. I saw until enemy countries exchanging resources, not attacks. The heart that was tightening inside me began to warm up. Why? How can they still love after losing so much? I asked. Because it is in these moments that people discover who they really are. The mask of comfort falls away, and many will find the faith they had forgotten. He looked me in the eyes. This will be the first call, the first trumpet, not to scare, but to wake up. And before I could answer, the fog returned, and with it, the second vision. The soft light around us turned into pitch-black darkness, as if someone had turned off the sky. I tensed, expecting something terrible. Jesus said nothing. He just reached out his hand and the new scene formed before us. It was a big city. I recognized the dim lights of Los Angeles. The horizon, normally bright at night, was plunged into an absolute brief. Why? Is everything off? I asked. And then I heard. Or rather, I didn't hear anything. No humming air conditioning, no loud music, no cars passing by. A silence so deep it seemed to scream inside the soul. Systems will fail, Jesus said, his voice calm but firm. Power, internet, communication. Everything will go silent for a while. Nothing will work the way it used to. In the vision, I saw people trying to turn on their cell phones, confused. Banks closed, supermarkets empty, radio stations silent, and then panic. A man yelled at his wife on the phone until the signal went out. A woman cried alone on a dark street, not knowing how to find her children. People knocked on neighbors' doors, not knowing what to do. But it's not just technology that will be silenced, Jesus continued. It's human arrogance. The pride that said, we control everything. It will be silenced too. And it was then that the turnaround happened. I saw something beautiful born in the midst of chaos. With the machine silent, human voices began to rise. Neighbors who never spoke to each other sharing food. People sitting in circles, lighting candles, playing guitar, telling stories. Children playing in the streets, no screens on faces. Families praying together for the first time in years. People looking into each other's eyes again. And in that darkness, there was a light that no plant produced. A light from within. A living light. When the lights of the earth go out, Jesus said, the lights of the soul will begin to shine. I saw full churches, but I also saw prayers on the sidewalks, in the backyards, in the schools. People singing, even without knowing what would happen the next day. There were faith, not institutional faith, but the raw, desperate, real faith. Some will hate the silence, he told me, because in the silence their wounds scream. But others will hear my voice for the first time. I saw candlelit faces and tear-filled eyes. And I understood. The fall of systems will also be a chance for spiritual reconnection. And then, I asked, will things go back to normal? Jesus looked at me with a mixture of sadness and hope. Not as before, but as they should have been. The darkness of the vision was swallowed up again by the light, and I felt my chest tighten. If this was the second event, I didn't want to see the third one. But Jesus held my hand and said, you need it. The soft light faded like a smothered flame. What was left was a heavy gray gloom, thick as smoke. A chill ran across my skin. Jesus still held my hand, but this time I felt like I needed it more than ever. Your generation will see a new kind of disease, he said, but this one will not be like the ones before. This one will feed something much more dangerous, Fear. Between hearts, the view opened up before us. It was a hospital, overcrowded, stuffy, filled with a tense silence. Doctors with tired eyes, nurses weeping in the hallways, patients isolated, looking at the ceiling with terror in his eyes. The illness was real, but there was something worse than the fever, the sores, the cough. It was what she did with people. I saw families being forcibly separated, schools closed for months, neighbors reporting on each other, people hiding in their homes not out of caution but out of panic. Churches closed, hugs forbidden, silent celebrations of lonely birthdays. The greatest virus, Jesus said, will not be in the body. It will be that alma. It is fear, and it will be used. I saw leaders on platforms using words like security and control as they divided peoples, races, creeds. Families fighting, friendships being destroyed by ideologies, distrust spreading like a shadow. But not all will be lost, Jesus said firmly. The vision changed. I saw mothers teaching their children to pray. Doctors kneeling beside, patients hands together, even with the risk of contamination. I saw people singing in windows, hanging posters with verses, distributing food in bags with notes of hope. And I saw something inexplicable. Prayer circles appearing in entire cities, like small flames seen from above. In houses, in parks, in hospitals, people holding hands, praying silently or singing in languages I didn't know, but that made my heart vibrate. Even when surrounded by darkness, some will choose to be light, Jesus said. And it is through them that the world will be sustained. I felt suffocated again, not by the illness, but by the pain of divisions, of deaths, of loneliness that I saw. It's impossible not to feel afraid, I confessed. Jesus looked at me tenderly. It is normal to feel. But fear only dominates where love is absent. And I am love. Where I am, fear has no power. With a gentle gesture, he blew over the scene and the smoke cleared. The light returned, but I trembled inside. The 3 events had been shown. The warning was complete. But why? I asked, tears streaming down my face. Why show me all this? And he answered with his eyes shining like living stars, because you are a trumpet, and it is time for the sound to be heard. When the last vision disappeared, I thought it would all end there. I already felt an immense weight on my chest, as if I were carrying the suffering of all humanity. But Jesus did not let go of my hand. There is more you need to understand, he said, before you go back. We floated again in that golden, ethereal atmosphere. Ahead appeared an indescribable structure. It seemed like a temple made of liquid light, pulsating in harmony with a sound that was not sound, but soul. Jesus called it the Room of Revelations. Everything seen on earth already exists here, in its spiritual essence, he said, as the doors swung open without being touched. Inside, the walls were covered in golden threads, intertwined, like a living web. Each thread pulsed at different intervals, as if each were connected to a human heart. And in the center, a column of pure fire, alive, that did not burn, but warmed the soul. Each thread represents a prayer. Each thread represents a calling. Each thread, a destiny, Jesus explained. I approached the column and saw scenes appear on it. They were not visions as before. They were memories of other souls. Children praying for their mother's healing. An old man alone in the desert crying out to God in despair. A woman giving her last meal to a stranger. A pastor being arrested for not denying his faith. But what surprised me was when I saw to myself. Jesus touched the pillar, and I found myself one night crying in my room after an anxiety attack. I had mumbled, "If anyone out there hears me, please help me." I didn't even call out his name. That prayer came to you like a bolt of lightning, Jesus said. Even without knowing it, you sought me, and I answered. He then showed me how each of the 3 great visions was connected with these threads of prayer. During floods, prayers flared up like explosions. a father trapped on the roof with his daughter, a lonely lady shouting Psalm 91. During the blackout, silent prayers created an invisible web of comfort between neighborhoods and even countries. When everything was silent, the sky listened. During the plague of fear, the prayers were small but powerful. Whispers of children, wordless tears, panting breaths accompanied by faith. These are the real weapons, Jesus said. This is what sustains the earth, not governments, not science, love, prayer, faith. My soul trembled. Why show me this? I asked, already knowing the answer. For the world must not only hear what is coming, he said, but what can be done before it comes. He then pointed to a golden thread that stood out, glowing brightly. This is yours, he said, and it is now connected to thousands of others who will hear your voice. When he said this, the thread exploded into light, and I felt my mission inside my chest like a flash that no longer fit inside me. You are not the only one. There are many, but you must be one of the first to blow the trumpet. Before it is too late. After the Hall of Revelations, I thought my journey with Jesus was over. But he still led me through one last place, a space between worlds where everything seemed made of cosmic silk. The colors there did not exist on Earth. It was as if the sky had been sown with music and meaning. You are in the veil of remembrance, he said. Here, many see what they have forgotten. Before I could ask, the silks began to move, forming images around me. It was as if I watched what my soul always knew, but my human mind couldn't remember. The first memory showed me before my birth. I saw myself as a spirit light radiant alongside other beings like soul brothers. Some were smiling, others looked worried. And there Jesus showed me the earth and the mission I would choose to live. You agreed to come at a difficult time, he said. A time where faith would be tested like never before. In that memory, I said yes. I wanted to come, even though I knew I would suffer. Why? I asked, a lump in my throat. Because you knew what we forgot when we were born, that it is worth giving yourself for love. The second memory was even stronger. I saw my parents before they met me. I saw my mother praying in a dark bathroom, asking for a sign that her life had value. And it was that same month that she discovered she was pregnant. Jesus looked at me. You were already an answer before you even breathed. And then the third memory, the most overwhelming one, was of my own funeral in a parallel timeline where I would not return. I saw my family crying, friends leaving flowers. I saw how my absence caused a wave of change, as if my death awakened something in people. But then time went back and I saw the lifeline that returned to Earth, the same where I would live to tell the tale. And there, the consequences were even bigger. Thousands of people listening to my story. Young, people changing their paths, families reconciling, people giving up addictions, faith resurfacing in hearts that had been closed for years. This is the reality you chose when you came back, Jesus said, and now it depends on your courage. I was shaking, not from fear, but from spiritual weight, the responsibility of those who saw the invisible and could no longer pretend they didn't see it. Then Jesus showed me the last symbol. It was a flame, small and constant, that he placed right in the center of my chest. This will never go out, he said. Even in the dark days, even when people doubt you. This flame is the reminder of what you saw here, and it will guide your voice. The veil began to unravel, the silks falling toward the light. And Jesus said, "You are ready now." Didn't want to go, but he looked at me with such firmness and tenderness that I understood, whoever sees is not to stay. It is to return and reveal. The light around me began to vibrate, as if each particle was saying goodbye to me. I knew it was time, but something inside me screamed, I don't want to go back. Jesus held my face in both hands. His eyes, so full of everything, fixed themselves on mine. "You won't be coming back alone," he said. At that moment, thousands of sparks of light appeared all around us. Spirits, angels, or perhaps other awakened souls. They did not have faces like ours, but each one conveyed something pure: courage, compassion, fire, grace. They would go with me, invisible but present. "The coming war will be in the hearts," Jesus said, "and you will be a point of light in the fog." I began to feel a slight pain in the center of my chest, as if my physical body was calling me back. Jesus noticed and wrapped me in a hug that seemed to gather all the memories of my existence. "You will remember more than you think," he whispered, "and you will forget just enough to keep walking in faith." With a gentle movement, he touched my chest right where the flame glowed and said, "Awake, trumpet." And then I got sucked into immense strength. It was like being thrown through a tunnel that simultaneously shrank and twisted. Lights turned into sounds, sounds into pain, pain into awareness. I started to feel my body again, as if I were wearing armor that was too tight. The weight of my flesh, my aching bones, my burning chest. I heard voices shouting orders, hurried footsteps. "She's coming back," blood pressure rising. A shrill sound filled my ears, the beep of a heart monitor, and suddenly, my eyes opened. The white light of the hospital wasn't divine. It was cold, fluorescent, but at that moment, it was all I needed to understand. I had come back. My body ached as if it had been hit by a train, but my spirit, oh, my spirit would burn forever. Amidst the confusion of doctors and voices, I closed my eyes for a moment and whispered, "I remember. I remember the sea that will rise. I remember the darkness that will unite. I remember the plague that will divide. But above all, I remember the light. I remember him, and I remember that there is still time. The mission was just beginning." Back in my body, the memories of the NDE were not vague like dreams. They were tattoos on the soul. Every image, every word of Jesus echoed within me, as if it were being repeated in another dimension, superimposed on reality. As the doctors talked around me, as the machines beeped, I just heard, "3 events before 2030, and you must warn." It was as if something inside me had been reprogrammed. The usual concerns, school, social media, appearance, status, seemed child's play in the face of eternity that I had touched. During that time between life and death, I received more than visions. I received an urgent call. And even though I was still in pain, connected to tubes and monitors, I began to remember perfectly. The sea invading the cities, breaking the false security of the world. The blackout revealing our true connection. It was never digital, but spiritual. The emotional plague, where fear will divide more than any disease, but where it will also emerge a faith that will defy the control of darkness. And now back, I knew the clock was ticking. Before 2030. It wasn't maybe, it wasn't if. It was when. It was written. Not in stone, in spirit. And then something curious happened. I started to feel things in others. The despair of the tired nurse, the guilt of the doctor who couldn't save a patient, the fear of a lady in the next room. It was as if my heart had been opened, feeling for the whole world. But along with that weight, there was a strange certainty. I was no longer alone. Jesus' words wouldn't leave me. "You won't be coming back alone." And I could feel something inside me was burning silently. The flame he lit was not just symbolic, it was real. It was as if at any moment I could speak, touch, even look at someone, and that person, knowing there was something bigger there. It wasn't about me. I wasn't special, but I was witness. And whoever witnesses something like this can no longer remain silent. If you are listening to this now, it is because this message has reached you. And if it reached you, it's because you're also part of it. from those who should know, of those who must remember, of those who must prepare, not with fear, but with faith. Still on the threshold between worlds, between spirit and flesh, my being remained there, suspended between two veils. The body called, but the soul hesitated. Jesus was still with me, and the light around me wavered as if time were about to close. "There is something I still need to show you," he said. The scene around us changed once more. It wasn't a vision of the future now. It was the architecture of what sustains the invisible. We were standing before something that looked like a mountain made of pure crystal, alive and vibrating. At its summit floated an immense book, not made of paper but of liquid light, the Book of the Witness. "This is not the book of life," Jesus explained. "This is the book of all who, upon seeing, agreed to tell. Each line here represents a soul who has crossed the veil and returned, carrying a sound." I walked closer and saw names. Thousands. Some were dimmed, some lit with a golden glow. One name stood before me, my. In every generation I raise trumpets, bearers of memory. They do not return to the same world. They return as signs. Jesus then touched the book, and a wave of light came out of it, crossing space in waves, and along with it, on promise. No one who testifies in my name will be alone. When the water covers the streets, I will be with them. When the light of the earth goes out, my light will be the beacon. When fear threatens to tear the world apart, my love will sew it back together. And when the trumpets sound, those who have heard the call will know where to run. I felt those words sink into me, not as a memory but a spiritual mark, a mission that could no longer be ignored. What I saw, what I felt, what I understood, was too real to be forgotten. Time there did not follow the same path as ours, but Jesus showed me a light clock suspended on the horizon. Its hands turned like constellations, and he said, "Before 2030, you know. Now others need to know." And then, for the first time since I got there, he walked away. Not out of abandonment, but out of love. Because the time had come. A last vision formed around me, not of the world but of whole universe in prayer. Every planet, star, heart vibrating in a single cry. May the world wake up before time closes in. That was the farewell. And then, the fall came. The fall wasn't sudden. It wasn't violent. It was like being pulled by threads of light back into a body that seemed too small to contain what I had seen. But before crossing the threshold, one last scene was shown to me. It was the earth, seen from far away, like a globe suspended in the void. But around it, thousands, perhaps millions of small points of light appeared. They suddenly lit up as if someone had breathed life into them. "These are the ones who will listen to you," said the voice of Jesus, now not beside me, but inside me, "those who will also awaken." And then, three sounds echoed in the spiritual space like thunder that did not hurt but awakened the soul. The roar of the waters, the silence of the machines, the groan of fear, and then a fourth note, soft but immense. A song of return, the song of all those who, even in pain, will decide to love. Jesus spoke to me without words. The world will be shaken, but not broken. Those with an open heart will understand. And you are one of those who came back to remind others that even in the end, there is a beginning. The light began to compress around me, becoming a narrower tunnel, as if it were being squeezed inside me. I felt my spirit being pulled by something denser, slower. It was time, it was gravity, it was the body. But I still saw it. The last images were given to me as a stamp. Children praying at school, without anyone telling them to. Young people giving up addictions and kneeling in the street. Churches full, not of tradition, but of tears. Hearts opening to the invisible like windows after years of being closed. And a crowd looking up no longer in fear, but with hope. All this before 2030. The mission was clear. The memory was eternal. The truth was alive. And in the instant before the EWA, physical pain returned. Before my lungs filled with air again, I heard one last promise. You will return, but heaven will follow in you. And then, the light is gone, but never again from me. If you liked this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, comment your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time.